Well, that was fast. Well, this a good way to start the day. Let's start our
You
morning.
know, I could really turn this
Uh,
into half an
yeah.
hour long video if I wanted to, but I value your
Do it.
time, so I'm only gonna
Nah, nah, nah. Do it, do it, do it. I need more watch time.
increase it tenfold. So, let's all be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
Riot cooked. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if you are
they
a
did.
fan of League of Legends. It doesn't matter if you are a fan of Arcane. That
We are.
cinematic was great.
Yeah, I don't trust anyone who saw Arcane and didn't like it.
And at this point, I am not sure what's cooler. The fact that we are constantly getting high quality cinematics, or the fact that this is Fortige who is doing this. Meaning that all of this is aligning with Arcane. And let me
Let's
tell you, you
go.
really think we are not gonna connect this to Arcane? Because even though we
Hell
are taking a
yeah.
cinematic that is a bit less than 2 minutes long, the truth is, this cinematic is just one big tease. As well as a
Yep.
tease for the next season
New
as
show.
well as possibly a tease for the next champion. And so, you know what, let's just get into all of that. The cinematic begins with Atakan's helmet on a pedestal.
Okay.
But you can already see that it is missing Mordekaiser's runes, which were previously present in the comics. And that is of course because with Mordekaiser
Sure.
being gone, or at least banished for now, LeBlanc took the item that bound this demon, that being the helmet, and she bound it to her own will. In fact, that is what all the black goop is about.
So that's what's happening. Okay.
Atakan is
Okay.
still technically bound to the helmet. It is just LeBlanc who owns it now. Now, the chances are that a lot of people watching this video will not have the context of all the other lore we covered. So let me quickly bring you up to speed. You see, from the very first cinematic we got right after Arcane for the beginning of the Noxian season, there was a whole new storyline that started developing. If you go back to that first cinematic, you can see that LeBlanc is looking at something powerful on a wall. At that time, we had no idea what that was, and so to us, it was just a symbol. After this, Mordekaiser's comic was released, where we learned about the lore of Atakan, a creature that was created through the fusion of Mordekaiser's best friend and a demon. But after Mordekaiser died,
Okay.
and then was resurrected, and then he died again, the demon fell into the hands of LeBlanc. Which is where, at the end of that comic, we learned that LeBlanc decided to unleash the demon from the helmet, so it could roam the land and sate its hunger.
Why though?
After which, the Demon's Hand minigame was released in League of Legends, which really told us what happened here.
Okay.
You see, in reality, LeBlanc never freed the demon. The demon
Yeah,
was
that makes
always in the
sense.
pale room which we've seen in the cinematic. It was all just an illusion in the demon's head.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was about why freed him though. Okay.
And LeBlanc
Okay.
did all of this because she wanted to evoke the demon's memories. Through these memories, she could learn more about Mordekaiser's fall, she could learn more about the dark magic Mordekaiser was studying, she could even learn about the magical process of binding people to items and demons, but mainly she wanted to evoke the demon's memories to suppress the human side. Because again, as a reminder, Atakan is the merging of Mordekaiser's general and a demon. And with only the demon remaining, there would be no confusion with the memories, and so LeBlanc could get the demon's knowledge. With that, she could learn where the powerful item she was after was hiding, and so after unleashing Atakan at the very end of the minigame,
When you free him, you will reveal to me the location of darkened weapon. Okay.
we
it
learned
was
that the
all for a
powerful
weapon.
item was indeed a Darkin, and we learned that it was hidden in Ionia. And that is what brings us to this cinematic. LeBlanc just managed to break Atakan from Mordekaiser's shackles, and she bound it to the Black Rose. And now, the story is about to continue. It begins with the amazing reveal of Atakan being rendered by Fortige. And oh boy, does it
Yeah.
look great.
Hell
Again,
yeah.
if you are wondering why Atakan has human hands, it's not because he would be trying to mimic humans like other demons who lure them. Instead, in this case, it's because those hands actually belong to Katashli, who used to be Mordekaiser's general. But then,
Okay.
when Atakan steps back from the wall, the shot reveals the Darkin. Now first, during this shot, you can see all of those pink petals flying in. Where are they
Yeah.
coming from? We don't
Who
know.
knows?
We are dealing with Atakan and LeBlanc and all bunch of illusions, so anywhere really.
It looks good. That's it. It was aesthetic choice.
But the point is, of course, pink petals are related to Ionia. We can pick and choose specific scenes where they were used, including spirits and stuff. But more importantly, again, it is Fortiche, so this is full of details. So in this case, the pink petals are a massive contrast to the classic black rose petals which LeBlanc usually has around her. Now, when it comes to the image on the wall, you can see that the Darkin already looks slightly different. Before, in the first cinematic, in order for Riot to keep it more of a mystery, it was more vague, but now the image has a proper shape. And so now we know that the Darkin, who is very likely gonna be the next champion, is a glaive, which is something we mostly know about because Riot accidentally teased this on their social media. And so Vladimir then steps into the debate, and he calls
You love mistakes like that. I love them.
the location the First Lands. This is a really cool nod towards League's lore, because the First Lands is a very archaic word for Ionia, with the
Yeah.
cool detail here being that Vladimir is old. It makes sense that he would be using old terms. But after this, LeBlanc, actually calling it Ionia, mentioned that it was just a doorway, after which Atakan teased her to come and claim her prize in his world. Now all of this is actually tied together, because this is all referencing what Ionia is really about, with Ionia being a continent that is heavily connected with spirits.
God fucking damn it.
In his research, Dr. Morrison identified a paradox.
Hold up, hold up, hold up. Okay, there we go.
This is why these
Back to it.
lands are full of the Akana, who are the good demons, or the Azakana, who are the lesser bad demons. And so it is likely that this is what Atakan is referencing here. Ionia is absolutely a land filled with similar beings, including something like Nocturne. And that is where the cinematic may get a bit confusing, because apparently there was miscommunication with translation. You see,
Okay.
Vladimir mentions that LeBlanc should be listening to her puppet, likely mentioning Atakan, but he adds that she has no host. Now, a host can have two meanings. A host, as in a body for a Darkin, because remember, the Darkin are the twisted souls of the Ascended who were sealed inside weapons, and they can be unleashed when someone picks up the weapon, after which the Darkin dominate their bodies, so in other words, the wielder becomes the host. So, for example, in the case of someone like Aatrox, we are not really looking at the Darkin, we are looking at the host, which is a twisted human being which picked up the blade. But the thing is that a host can also be a war host. Because remember, during the invasion of Ionia, LeBlanc actually had quite a few squads in Ionia. For example, let's not forget the Sisterhood of War. On top of this, during the invasion of Ionia, the Grand General of Noxus was Borim Darkwill, who was manipulated by LeBlanc like a puppet. So during his reign, LeBlanc...
I feel like I'm in a real life history lessons. I don't know any of this. It's like Game of Thrones levels of lore. I don't know them.
essentially owned the entire Noxian army. The problem is then that when this cinematic was translated into different languages, some languages used host as in a body, and other languages called it a war host. So now we're not exactly sure which one of these this is. Though I'm gonna assume that it is actually talking about a body, as in a host for a Darkin. In the entire context of this cinematic, that would make sense. Although there is another thing that could be mentioned. In the latest story which LeBlanc got, and I know,
Yeah.
it's crazy, we actually got a new story. It was revealed
Hell
that
yeah.
LeBlanc's clones are
Can't
fully
wait.
sentient. They are also spread across the entire world, with the
Ah.
coolest part being that they all believe that they are the real LeBlanc. So if you really
Ah, that's interesting. That can cause some issues. I wonder if we're gonna use that in the show. Look, we meet the A LeBlanc, and then we meet like the LeBlanc at the end.
twist it enough, Vladimir could be talking about the fact that LeBlanc doesn't have a host, as in a clone in Ionia, but I don't think that's the case. Sure, the news story revealed that she had a clone in Ionia watching over Syndra, but after Syndra was unleashed, we can assume that clone was lost, but I doubt she wouldn't have another one around. So, to tie everything back, Vladimir is reminding LeBlanc that she doesn't have a body that could become a host for the Darkin, after which he just casually drops a big lore bomb. because he also mentions that the new Grand General would not approve another campaign in Ionia. This is big because it actually puts on some timeline for Arcane. So now we know that the Ionian invasion concluded just as Arcane finished. So I guess Singed didn't really make weapons for Noxus, which also means that the Noxian invasion of Ionia likely happened during the first act of Arcane. And so after Arcane was done, Swain came back from the invasion of Ionia, he killed Borem Darkwill, and now Swain is the new leader of Noxus. Of course, in the present days, Noxus is supposed to be led by 3 people that
Oh, so that guy is still here now. Okay. Yeah, we saw the crow at the end of Arcane.
being Swain, Darius, and a mysterious figure, but even within this context, Swain would still be called the Grand General. So we are not sure if the leadership of Triforix was already established. Anyway.
That makes me think they're gonna try to invade. Yeah, that makes me think at the end of Noxus we're gonna have like a war against Piltover and Son. If this guy is trying to invade,
Anyway, continuing on. Atakan starts to get restless, he did all of LeBlanc's bidding and now he wants to be unleashed. Which is where LeBlanc starts whispering something to the demon. And for the most part, we can just speculate what that is. Because Atakan goes frenzy, we can assume that she teased him that she might release him after the entire task is done, so that after 1,000 years he can finally feast. Or maybe she just mocked him by whispering his real name. Because in the universe of League of Legends, if you know a demon's real name, you can completely dominate it with incantations. Unless she whispered that Atakan is gonna be the next host to the Darkin. That would be wild. Also a cool detail here is that you can notice the black goop going from the helmet to Atakan. Once again referencing that he is still bound to the helmet. Also the scene with the chains is indeed a reference to the emote you can get in the game.
That's cool. Didn't know that.
Next, LeBlanc also mentions that losing her host was an unfortunate turn. So LeBlanc likely had someone who was under her control who was planned to be the next host for the Darkin. The curious thing is that she is talking about all of this after Vladimir talked about the Grand General. So maybe LeBlanc is talking about her losing Borem Darkwill? So it is possible she also wanted to use him for the Darkin, but then she also mentions the might of Noxus, which is Darius. And this is where things get really confusing, because again, they are talking about all of this in the context of just talking about the Grand General not approving another campaign in Ionia. So they are almost talking about it as if Darius was the leader of Noxus. Now, it still should be Swain. Swain has the title of the Grand General.
I'll take his
but
hand.
if the Triforix is already established, then sure, Darius is one of the 3 leaders. The confusing thing is that technically they would call Darius the Grand General, which he's not. And so if this is not what they are referencing, then I have no idea why they are bringing up Darius. Though they are bringing him up for one reason. The big point is that LeBlanc wants to go back into Ionia directly through Darius. She likely wants to manipulate him through whispers, as was hinted here, to launch another campaign in Ionia. And we know she's capable of this because in the latest story, it was teased that during the cinematic where Darius was fighting Trundle, one of LeBlanc's clones was hiding in the Warhost. So she's already spying on Darius, and so the likelihood is she can manipulate him. Also, in this scene, I quickly want to point out, it is funny to see how Vladimir is respecting the demon, and he's constantly ready to fight it, but eventually he also agrees to Ionia then. Which pretty much confirms that indeed, the next League of Legends season is gonna be in Ionia. And we are going there because LeBlanc wants to find a Darkin there. And we are likely gonna go there because Darius is gonna launch another campaign into Ionia. And best of all, we learned about all of this from an animation that was made by Fortiche.
Yeah,
and there
that's
you
the best
have it,
part.
the newest League
That's
of
the
Legends
best part.
cinematic explained. I'll be honest, it is wild to see League of Legends lore being so good again.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this for 2 years. And now, in a hilarious twist, the lore community is eating the best.
Yep, yes we are. My last video blew the fuck up.
And so, hopefully,
I don't know
I
where.
fulfilled my duty with this video.
Hey. Thank you. I was waiting for it. I'm so glad you did it so quickly. God damn it. Okay. Yeah, I'm so glad we got it so quickly. I did not expect it. Such a good explanation. I'm still gonna go over, all other lore stuff because there's so much stuff that I don't know anything about. I got a long ass list from a comment uh, on the last video. Yeah, telling me to check the motion comics, a long list, but I'm gonna check all of it out, especially if it's on YouTube. So yeah.